A fierce battle is unfolding on the vast battlefield. Warriors like the sea are agitated in the struggle for their clan. "Live in the name of the clan," my father used to say, believing that my desires did not matter. My destiny was to be just a shadow of my brother, an integral part of his life and struggle. The young man fell to his knees, sinking to the ground, which was disfigured by the battle and lay in rubble under his weight. The smoke rising behind him was a silent witness to the ferocity of the battle that had just taken place. A man approaches him across the cracked ground. He stops, looking at the young man, and says with a subtle smile on his lips, "What a sight." The boy slowly raises his head, and blood drips from his mouth and forehead, leaving undoubted traces of the battle in which he was injured. The knight, standing alone, bravely confronts the overwhelming forces of the Continental Command, as if he were the last bastion of unwavering will. With gravity on their faces, the other knights watch him, realizing the greatness and significance of his lonely struggle. Defeated but not broken, the hero kneels before the soldiers surrounding him, demonstrating endurance even in the face of imminent defeat. The commander in light armor pays attention to him, laughs mockingly, and challenges him, saying, "I did not expect anything else from the brother of that man." The boy's eyes are filled with undisguised hatred as he stares at the commander. With an agitated force in his voice, he shouts one single word that resonates in the air, "Boris!" In response, Boris meets his gaze with a mocking laugh. He is fully aware that Cyan Vert, the majestic warrior, now lies defeated before him. But the guy had no intention of giving up. With a menacing gleam in his eye, he radiated steadfastness as he asked Boris what price he was paying. Raising his hand higher, he began to concentrate the demonic red energy that was swirling around him, preparing for another clash. Now he stands leaning on one leg with his sword raised high in the air, blazing with red demonic fire. With unwavering determination in his voice, he asks who is behind this plot against him. Was it the Emperor? He challenges the world, ready to face any answer. Boris, protecting his face with his left hand, watches the boy closely. He sees a repulsive black fog coming out of the boy, confirming the rumors about this villain. He realizes that the power that rages in the boy is not just a myth. Watching the young man unleash demonic energy that tears through the air, addresses him, calling him the killer from the fog. His words, deliberate and confident, seem to imprint this moment in history. The petty officer bravely gets to his feet, radiating irrepressible energy. "Go ahead. If you can say something when I'm done with you, be grateful if you still have teeth," the guy surrounded by a powerful aura says with a challenge in his voice. Boris responds with unwavering confidence, noting that if the young warrior is going to use his secret power, he shouldn't even try. "We've set up a rank 9 magic barrier," he says, hinting at his preparation for any challenge. Realizing the inequality of their forces in the confrontation, our hero thinks that he will not be able to hold out in this battle for long. He realizes that he needs to find a way to escape and go to the city with his brother to find out who is behind this conspiracy. With unwavering determination, the boy raises his sword high, his eyes flashing with animal fire, ready to confront even an impenetrable barrier. Gathering all his strength and will, he firmly decides to break the barrier in his path. Suddenly, the scene is interrupted by the appearance of his father in knightly armor, who addresses his son with majesty and confidence. "Enough, son." This moment becomes decisive, changing the course of events. Frozen in amazement, the young man from Nenotsk is struck by the unexpected turn of events. This moment seems to have stopped time for him. He begins to recall his father's words, which now take on a new meaning. Living for the sake of the clan and your brother is what it really means to be part of the clan. He gazes into the face of this man who is the embodiment of confidence and wisdom, recalling his father's words, "Cyan success is Cyan Vert's success." These words take on a new meaning at this pivotal moment. In the face of unforeseen circumstances, the guy was overcome with fear. He could not imagine that Ashel was behind these events. Surprise cloud his mind. This majestic warrior, dressed in his impressive armor and holding a huge sword, walks across the devastated land. Around him, people bow their heads in respect and submission to his power and authority. Unable to stand under the weight of the brutal truth that was revealed to him, the boy falls to his knees, dropping his sword to the ground. This moment becomes a symbol of his despair and the realization of the inevitability of the events unfolding before him. Shell walks up to him, stops beside him, and says with calmness in his voice, "I can see you didn't expect to see me here." In this way, he emphasizes the unexpectedness of his presence and the difficulty of the boy's situation. On his knees, the young man looks up at his loved one, his eyes radiating fiery energy, indicating the violent emotions that are boiling in his heart. With pain in his eyes, he looks at his loved one. With a broken voice, he asks, "What does it all mean? Why was it all done?" These words reflect his confusion and deep desire to understand the reasons and motives behind this drama. The father speaks to Cyan with weighty words. "Cyan, you will personally handle your duties for the sake of the clan, my people, and myself." His words are full of importance and full of faith in his son. These words strike our hero right in the heart, causing confusion and misunderstanding. He is faced with a riddle. What did he do wrong that caused this reaction? His father's energy only adds to the questions, forcing Cyan to think about the deeper meaning of these words. Confused, he turns to his father. "I don't understand what I did wrong." The resistance in his heart only grows, and the energy he burns with becomes even more fervent. The father, watching his son with slightly squinted eyes, is shocked when Cyan keeps asking him what he did wrong. This scene emphasizes the deep conflict between father and son that lies at the heart of their understanding. Looking at his son, who radiates a powerful aura of death, the father says with a sick heart, "You are an ominous mist, nothing more than a murderer. I cannot even call you a human being." These words echo in the air, filled with bitterness and disappointment. He continues his conversation, accusing his son of long-standing deception and inability to realize his sins. "You've been deceiving us for a long time, and now you don't realize what sins you've committed," the father asks, looking for answers in his son's eyes. The guy, covered in blood, answers with pain in his voice, "Am I a murderer? What sins?" Emotions overwhelm him. He cannot understand the justice of the accusations. This intense confrontation suddenly throws Cyan off balance, and he shouts back in anger, "What kind of nonsense are you talking about?" His exclamation becomes an explosion of emotions that breaks the silence between them. The scene opens when the boy becomes a key figure in his father's acquisition and assumption of power in the Empire. His help in confronting the army of the Demon King, which was a huge threat, becomes decisive. He not only took part in a war that united all continents and was bloody and brutal for all participants, but also played a central role in this struggle. His dedication to his parents and serving them has become the purpose of his life, which he demonstrates through his unrelenting support and assistance in all their efforts. Gathering his strength, he lowers his hand to the ground, holding a dagger that burns with energy, symbolizing readiness for action and defense. He lets out words full of pain and betrayal. "And now you've decided to leave me." His hatred cannot be contained. It bursts out through words filled with bitterness and frustration at the injustice he feels. Sharpened by a powerful energy, he fills every part of his being with this aura, letting out a cry of hatred. "I've been working like a dog all these 20 years. As he prepares to attack, he promises not to stop. SDJ. With every step he takes to the ground, blood drips from him, but his determination to fight to the end does not wane. "It doesn't matter if my body breaks," he says amidst the light and fire that envelops him. "I'm going to give it my best shot," he promises, his eyes burning, ready for the last and decisive effort. "If this doesn't help me win." His words sound like an oath, while all the energy fills the space around him. The red demonic energy that drives everyone who gets in its way crazy is spilling out all around. Meanwhile, his father watches this scene with unshakable calm, and behind him is the fear in the eyes of the knights watching. He still has so much mana left. It's just impossible. He's not human, the father states with surprise and anxiety. Continuing her resolute resistance, Cyan turns to her brother with a challenge. "Aren't you ashamed of yourself? A hero who wants to kill his younger brother out of fear?" His words are filled with contempt and indignation at such actions. His brother strains his eyes, watching Cyan nervously. The tension between them is growing with each passing moment. Cyan, full of incredible energy, rushes into battle against his brother, ready to fight to the end, reveals his lonely struggle against a huge army. Like the wind, he turns in battle, burning with a gust of strength and determination. He is alone, in the center of the storm, radiating energy, becoming a real wind demon who does not give up without a fight. He is confident that he alone will be enough to put an end to this folly. Cyan's brother, trying to defend himself, looks around in an attempt to intercept his attack. Cyan, the true demon of the dark mist, mobilizes all his strength and energy to confront the one he least expected to betray him. His determination and strength are impressive, and he is ready for the final battle. Like a trapped beast, Cyan goes all out to confront his brother. He decides that a critical strike full of mist energy and demonic power can end this battle. However, when he delivers this powerful blow, it turns out that the barrier created by his brother deflects the attack, throwing Cyan backwards like a doll. Cyan realizes that he has expended too much energy on a fruitless attempt. He bitterly admits that the damn bastard Boris, using a rank 9 barrier, was able to withstand his demonic strike, which he was unable to break. And as soon as he wasted his strike on the barrier, a light strike pierces through him so that his body is pierced by the rod. The weapon in his hands falls to the ground, still burning with demonic energy, and we see how Cyan's brother cuts through his demon brother with his huge sword, easily piercing any defense. At this point he says, "How can you be my brother? I wanted to give you a painless death, but now you've shown your true colors." The blond man's cold words pierced Cyan's heart like a blade. "I knew you were a demon from the beginning," he said with disdain, and the next words, "It's a good thing I never trusted you," they said, causing even more spiritual pain to our hero. Frozen with pain and despair, Cyan did not take his eyes off his brother, his eyes filled with tears. The fake brother with ruthless determination kicks Cyan, causing him to fall off his sword. Cyan collapses to the ground without moving. Turning his back on Cyan, the brother orders his army to move on without delay, leaving Cyan lying on the ground. Remaining conscious for a few more seconds, Cyan realizes what an incredible misfortune he has experienced. What an absurd life I've been given, he thinks, bleeding to death. And at the last moment, squinting his eyes, he comes to the conclusion that he was naive. The scene is deeply affecting, showing the tragedy of Cyan, who has lost everything, his trust, his family, and seemingly his very life, facing an unacceptable betrayal from the person closest to him. Gathering his last strength, Cyan, at the limit of his abilities, makes a desperate attack on his brother's back, hoping for a last chance. He flies forward, full of hope to strike a decisive blow before he dies, his every move imbued with despair and a desire for revenge. His scream, mixed with pain, hatred, and unexpected joy from his last attempt at struggle, tears the air. He blade of his sword to his brother's neck. Cyan is one step away from delivering the fatal blow, the moment frozen on the brink of a fatal decision. But at the last moment his brother counterattacks, and the luminous power of his magical skills explodes against Cyan, tearing him to pieces. Death comes instantly, ending the struggle and drawing the curtain on the tragedy of Cyan, who sought justice to the end. Suddenly Cyan wakes up in his room, feeling blood running down his throat and coughing. The only thing he hears is a woman's voice speaking to him with concern. "Young Master Cyan," echoing in space. "How much longer are you going to sleep? It's time to get ready." "We need to get ready, young master," the girl says, and Cyan still can't realize what is happening around him. He says her name with a hint of questioning. "Emily, why are you here?" These words plunge the girl into a state of shock, to which she responds only with a surprised, "Oh my God!" This unexpected change of events brings an element of mystery to the story, and makes us wonder whether the events that preceded it were real or just a nightmare. Young Cyan, who woke up in his bed, is confronted with a new reality where he has yet to understand what really happened. Cyan realizes that the last time he saw Emily was at least 23 years ago, but she looks exactly as he remembers her. She can't understand why he is acting so strangely. "What are you talking about? Are you asleep?" she asks, taking notes on his words. Looking around, Cyan sees that everything around him, the city and the room where he is now, are all places from his childhood. The arrangement in the room reminds him of those times. In a state of shock, he begins to realize that he has somehow returned to his childhood. He touches his face, trying to figure out if this is true or just an illusion. Emily has no intention of listening to the young master's nonsense, With a harsh tone in her voice, she reminds him that no one is interested in his fantasies. "Why are you procrastinating, not wanting to go to practice, yes?" she orders sharply, demanding that Cyan get ready immediately. The guy feels nervous because he has completely lost track of what kind of training he is talking about. "What kind of training?" he asks Amelia, but it's too much for her. She is tired of explaining and convincing. Cyan finds himself in the courtyard of the Vert clan's duchy, on the famous day when a landmark event for his family was to take place. Everything around him looks unchanged, immersing him in memories. "I've definitely gone back in time," he reflects, watching the bright sun of his childhood illuminate the shapes he has known since ancient times. Life rushes before his eyes like a kaleidoscope of events that have shaped his personality. He wonders if it is really the effect of going back in time that he is experiencing now, or something else that goes beyond his understanding. Cyan recalls that 27 years ago in 1985, on the 1st of September, the king, along with his family and entourage, attended the famous event. The image shows the king gathering with his children for this important event. Before entering the academy, each of the dukes participated in a training duel. The king watched his children closely, analyzing and testing their skills and abilities. His father, Bishop D. Herzog, was always present at these events, which gave them special significance. It was very important for the family and its status in the kingdom. Cyan's rival was Cyan Vert, one of his adopted brothers who was the same age as him. This duel between them was not only a competition of skills, but also a struggle for recognition in the family. Cyan's mother was Margaret Ayres, the wife of the Duke. Thanks to her, Cyan always received more attention, even though they were both younger brothers. This created tension and rivalry between them. Thinking back to those days, Cyan realizes that he was a bastard, and his defeat in this duel made him an object of universal ridicule. His defeat and tears after the fight did not allow him to achieve a significant result in the eyes of others, cementing his status as an outsider. After this duel, his father stopped communicating with Cyan and paying attention to him, warning him not to do anything foolish or reckless. This moment deeply affected Cyan, making him feel alienated and rejected by his own family. But now the situation has changed dramatically. Standing in front of his opponent, Cyan feels completely confident. His nanny tries to talk him out of the competition, advising him to just give up, to which he responds with determination. "It's okay, I just need to win." These words reflect his determination and change in attitude towards his own capabilities and strength. Watching his opponent, Cyan realizes that it will not be easy to win. However, this realization only strengthens his will to fight and does not frighten him. He realizes that even the servants are watching him with some disdain. But this does not diminish his determination to prove his worth and strength to everyone. The weapon in Cyan's hands is not a simple rapier, but a very heavy weapon. His strength is the same now as it was in that age and time. In the background, his nanny is anxiously asking him to be careful not to get hurt. Lowering the rapier in his hands, Cyan feels that this is not a dream at all, and this life is not just a glimmer before his eyes. He has never possessed magic or spells capable of creating such a powerful illusion. The realization that he has indeed returned to the past and that this is his reality, not a dream, fills him with mixed feelings. This gives him a unique opportunity to change his life and destiny, using the knowledge and experience gained in the future. In the dueling arena, Cyan meets his blonde brother, who looks at him with derision and laughs, shouting "ha ha ha" rather than words of sympathy or support. This emphasizes their rivalry and the little respect his brother has for him. Cyan reflects on the possibility of changing the future if he really went back to his past. He realizes that he has a unique chance to correct his mistakes and change his fate for the better. With fear and anxiety in his eyes, Cyan looks at his father, who raises his hand to signal the start of the duel. This moment becomes a test not only of his skills, but also of his inner strength and character. The fight starts with a lot of activity. The blonde brother, charged with determination and aggression, rushes to attack Cyan, shouting insults and asking why he is standing there as if lost. Seizing the moment, the blonde man charges, sword raised high, preparing to deliver the decisive blow, laughing and confident in his superiority. He raises his weapon over and over again, swinging with the intention of overpowering the Cyan standing in front of him. Cyan, with her coolness intact, ignores her brother's attack, thinking about his recklessness. At the crucial moment, in order to avoid being hit, he cleverly steps back, taking his foot to the side. This maneuverability causes his brother to miss, his sword hitting the ground powerlessly, missing its target. This trick not only demonstrates Xiang's endurance and strategic thinking, but also puts his brother in a bad light, emphasizing his inability to deliver a decisive blow. Cyan's failure and dodging provoked the anger of his brother Blondie, who, dismissively calling him a coward for his ability to avoid blows, loses his temper. This reaction only emphasizes his irritation and inability to control the situation. At the decisive moment, with concentration and skill, Cyan raises his sword and effectively knocks the sword out of his brother's hands, demonstrating his superiority in this duel. Keeping calm and confident, Cyan, with one hand in his pocket, delivers a precise kick to his brother's leg. This movement shows his confidence in his own abilities and disdain for his opponent's aggressiveness. The blow proves to be extremely painful for Blondie, who is barely able to stay on his feet from its force, and his face is distorted with pain and filled with tears. This moment becomes the culmination of the fight, where Cyan not only demonstrates his superiority in combat, but also his psychological superiority over his brother, making him feel the consequences of his audacity. The blonde brother finds himself on the ground with his arms around his knee, sobbing in pain and despair. This moment becomes for him a humiliating manifestation of his own weakness and failure. The parents, surprised and shocked by what they saw, are watching the scene unfold. The blonde boy's mother, shouting out her son's name, cannot hide her surprise and shock at the unexpected turn of events. Cyan reflects on his victory, realizing that all he needs to do to win is put his sword to his opponent's throat. His eyes shine with delight and a sense of superiority, which at the same time testifies to his inner growth and strength. However, this does not seem to be enough for Cyan. He ponders his next move, sword in hand, wondering what consequences his choice will bring. As Cyan recalls the past, he reflects on how his brother constantly neglected him as a child, which only strengthens his desire to prove his own strength and importance. These memories evoke mixed feelings in him and prompt him to reflect on the justice and morality of his actions. The animosity between the brothers was not limited to their school years. It continued to grow and escalate in the academy. The disagreements and contempt only gained momentum, making their relationship even more strained. Cyan realizes that he needs to show his brother clearly his place in the hierarchy to prevent such disrespectful acts from happening again. His eyes burn with determination and intent to act. He decides that in this life he will choose his own path and determine his own destiny, not allowing others to draw the boundaries of his capabilities or influence his choices. Approaching his blonde brother, Cyan is ready to express everything that has been pent up inside him over the years and put an end to this confrontation. The blonde man, overwhelmed with emotion, cries, screams, and begs, but Cyan has already decided to act decisively. He wants to resolve all misunderstandings and settle old grievances once and for all. In the end, the outcome of the duel is clear. Kranz loses. He lies on the ground, crying, foaming at the mouth as a result of his defeat and emotional exhaustion. The Duke, impressed by the outcome of the duel, orders Xiang to meet him and even issues a special order in his honor. Xiang's victory was so incredible and unexpected that everyone present was shocked by what they saw. This moment becomes a turning point not only in Xiang's life, but also changes the attitude of his family and everyone who watched their confrontation. Xian is now accompanied by a high-class knight, Elkin, personally appointed by the Duke to protect and escort him. This not only emphasizes his new status and importance in the eyes of the duchy, but also gives him confidence in his actions. In the corridor, Cyan notices Kranz's mother watching him with a concerned look. Her presence reminds him of the family ties and compliments that followed the duel. As Cyan passes this woman, he doesn't miss an opportunity to tease her, asking if Kranz is okay while laughing. This demonstrates his superiority and changed attitude toward Kranz's family after the duel. The woman's face was filled with hatred for Xiang because of his words. She indignantly replies to him, "How dare you ask me that after you beat him?" Her indignation and anger indicate the deep resentment she feels toward Xiang for his actions against her son. Despite her anger and accusations of impudence, Xian remains indifferent to her words. He walks past her with his bodyguard, knowing inwardly that this is the nature of a duel. He says goodbye to her, feeling that his actions were justified by the circumstances. In response to his indifference, the woman throws him after him. Is that why bastards shouldn't be treated like legitimate children? Her words emphasize the deep social and familial tension that exists between legitimate offspring and children born out of wedlock. To add insult to injury and humiliate Xiang, the woman resorts to cruel words, reminding him of his origins, calling him the son of a dirty whore, and claiming that he is not worthy of anything better than begging on the street. She declares that he should be grateful for any opportunity to fight back, a sneer twisting her face. Turning to her, Xian realizes that she has crossed the line by treating him with such disdain. The idea of extreme retaliation flashes through his mind, including the possibility of killing her as a response to her insults. Xian's eyes burn with hatred, but he realizes that there is a better way to retaliate than simple force. He knows how to find a more subtle and effective method of revenge. I know best how to make her suffer. I will torture her slowly and carefully, he thinks, planning his retribution in such a way that she will feel maximum pain. Turning to her, Cyan looks the woman straight in the eye and declares that he will also be going to the academy with Kranz. Her surprised "what?" only emphasizes her unpreparedness for this turn. His eyes blaze as he continues. You want your son to cope with all the difficulties, right? You don't seem to care much about his welfare. Isn't that right, Duchess? These words, uttered by Xiang, reveal his willingness to use psychological pressure and manipulation to convey his position and make her feel vulnerable. The woman hears Cyan's words and becomes very tense. Her anger reaches an extreme and she loses control of herself. In response to his provocations, she does not restrain herself and raises her hand, trying to hit Xiang, calling him a little rascal. However, the guard accompanying the boy intervenes, blocking her actions and apologizing to her. I'm sorry, Duchess. The elite guard informs them that the Duke has urgently summoned Xiang, so they cannot afford to stay longer in this situation. When the woman sees the serious and unwavering gaze of the elite guard, who emphasizes the urgency of their departure, her aggression subsides. She stops, tense and angry, but realizes that there is nothing she can do to stop them or punish Cyan for his insolence. Xian is aware of his superiority and is inwardly happy that the woman was defeated in their fight. The Duke's orders are absolute, the guard replies, emphasizing the irrefutability of the Duke's will. He is protected by a knight who has been given the appropriate order, a knight who is higher than even the Duke's wife in the chain of command and who can be relied upon. Watching this knight, Cyan realizes that he has a reliable ally. The door opens and the Duke addresses him. Come in. This invitation opens up new opportunities and paths for Xiang. Entering a large, sunny room, Cyan sees the Duke in front of him and addresses him with words. The youngest son, Duke Cyan, has arrived. This moment symbolizes his official introduction and recognition in the family circle and the power hierarchy of the duchy. Cyan bows his head to the Duke as he greets his father. He reflects on the last time they saw and spoke some 15 years ago, realizing the depth of the gap that has developed between them over time. Duke Word, the Grand Lord feudal lord of Velis in the western territory of the Empire, looks at Cyan carefully and says to him, "Sit down." This invitation indicates the Duke's willingness to listen and communicate with his youngest son. The Duke is called many things: the guardian of the continent, the hero who holds back the demonic invasion. These titles reflect his importance and contribution to the protection and well-being of his lands. Thanks to his incredible energy, magic, and great wisdom, the Duke bears an important responsibility for the fate of the entire continent, protecting it from external threats. Despite his death in a battle with the army of the Demon King, the Duke always sought peace for his continent, wanting to ensure a peaceful future for its inhabitants. He recalls a man who sacrificed his own freedom and dedicated his life to the good of others. Fool, your eyes followed the sword and you were able to avoid the blow, the father says to his son, pointing to his dexterity during the duel. Wide-eyed, Cyan looks at his father and asks, Yeah, so what? He tries to understand the meaning of his father's words. When the enemy rushed at you, your eyes followed the sword, his father continues, recalling that moment. And you were able to dodge, which is amazing, he emphasizes, pointing to Cyan's unexpected ability to defend himself. When did you learn how to use a sword? The father nervously asks, surprised by his son's extraordinary skill, which became apparent during the duel. In his thoughts, Cyan recognizes the insight of his father, who always seemed to be able to see through things. In response, he says, I wouldn't say I learned, I just practiced with him every night. This response reflects not only his dedication and perseverance in learning, but also his modesty about his own accomplishments. As far as I know, you've never been interested in swords. Why did you hide your incredible abilities? Asks his father, impressed by Cyan's unexpected skill. I just didn't want to attract too much attention, Cyan replies, trying to explain her reticence. His father responds, but it didn't hurt you at all to prove yourself in battle. These words make Cyan embarrassed and accept that his actions on the battlefield have revealed what he has been trying to hide for a long time. But there was something that particularly bothered Cyan's father. Why was it necessary to make a control strike on Kranz after the victory? Was it really necessary? What do you want to prove with this? The hero thinks to himself, wondering about his father's true intentions. Answering, Cyan says, yes, I wanted to prove it. His father, not missing an opportunity to counterattack, asks, prove what? Confused, Cyan replies, that I am better than Kranz, even though we are of the same blood. That was my goal in this duel. This answer makes the father smile, which in turn confuses Cyan. Perhaps the father was not expecting such frankness, or perhaps he found in his son's words a confirmation of his long-held assumptions about his character and motivations. My father smiles, proudly answering, excellent. A sincere and conscious answer that demonstrates your awareness. I didn't know you were so talented. I'm impressed. This recognition from his father not only validates Cyan's own abilities, but also demonstrates his growing respect and approval. One day you will be a great support for the family, the father continues, expressing his hopes and faith in Cyan's future as a key figure in the family's destiny. Slightly embarrassed, Cyan looks at his father and cannot understand how these words will affect his future, and what role he will play in the fate of the family. He recalls how Asher killed him in his previous life, reflecting on the mistakes and challenges he had to face. He looks at his father and realizes that he is still more inclined toward his other son, Kranz. This realization brings Cyan the tension he feels in every word his father says. He clenches his fist from the tension building up inside, but continues to listen to his father, trying to gather as much information as possible and understand his true intentions and expectations. Listening to his father, Cyan realizes that if the situation does not change, he may take radical action. He feels ready to destroy everything that stands in his way of recognition and justice. Gathering his strength, Cyan decides that the answer to all the challenges posed by his brother Ashel is to send him to the front. Responding to his father's suggestion, Cyan declares his desire to take part in the fighting, seeing it as a way to gain his own honor and recognition. This decision becomes a way for Cyan to prove his worth, and at the same time meet the challenges he faces. He is ready to defend his land and prove his right to respect and recognition, even if it means participating in a war. When Cyan returned to his room, the maid who had been looking after him asked in horror about his meeting with his father. Her surprise and disbelief that Cyan had expressed a desire to go to the front were obvious. Cyan, sitting on his bed, confirms her suspicions, saying that it is true, but he is still waiting for final approval. His supervisor, overwhelmed with concern, cannot hide her worry. "You're crazy. Do you realize what that front is?" She says this with such passion that it becomes clear that her heart will break if he really goes there. The maid tries to convey to Cyan the seriousness of the situation at the front, where there are many terrible demonic monsters who are eager to kill. It tells the story of Vila, the western part of the Usha Empire, the only place where all continents recognize the front line, and the Lemay Valley is considered the hottest spot. This place is a brutal battlefield where clashes have been going on for centuries. At first, Cyan's father opposed his decision to go there, setting a condition. Within a month, Cyan had to prove that he was worthy of going to the Lemay Valley. Cyan, looking at his hand, wonders how he will be able to determine his worthiness for this task. He realizes that he needs to train his body intensely because he is currently weaker than his peers. As he clenches his fist, Cyan realizes that he needs to focus on training and strengthening his body and mind to face the challenges ahead. This realization becomes his motivation for action and self-improvement. Luckily for Cyan, all his fighting skills and experience gained before the regression remained with him. This becomes his significant advantage and the basis for further development. In addition, he feels the presence of magic in his body, though not much. He realizes that with the right training, his body will become even more obedient and capable of performing magic. Great. I'm going to start training today, Cyan decides. At this point, someone suddenly bursts into the room, loudly shouting his name, Cyan. This caught his attention and spurred him into action. A woman enters the room, wrapping her arms around her body as if trying to protect herself or keep her emotions in check. It turns out to be Alice, who looks at Cyan with rage and the intention of punishing him. Alice, with her characteristic determination, grabs Cyan by the collar and lifts him up, demonstrating her superiority and her intention to show him his place. Shaking him, she yells at her son, accusing him of losing his mind. At this point, the maid, trying to ease the tension, turns to Alice with an innocent question about her affairs. Alice ignores the maid, focusing on Cyan, and angrily accuses him of asking for permission to go to the front, continuing to shake him. Cyan, in turn, tries to find peace in this situation, asking his mother to let him go first. It seems that defeating Kranz has confused you. That won't do, she says, eventually throwing Cyan to the ground with the intention of knocking all the stupid thoughts out of him. Alice, without losing her tone, orders Cyan to go up to the roof, shouting at him to move quickly. This indicates that she has a plan or a test for him, perhaps to show him the importance of the realities that await him at the front, or to convince him to change his mind. They climb to the roof of the castle together, preparing for an unusual test that would decide Cyan's fate. Standing in front of each other, Alice sets the terms. We will start when we draw our swords. I will let you go to the front if you can withstand my attacks for 3 minutes. This presents Cyan with a challenge that requires not only physical strength, but also the will to win. Cyan ties the laces of her shoes thoughtfully, wondering if she really needs to go through this ordeal. Just answer me one question. Do you want to earn it? Alice asks tensely, trying to understand Cyan's motivation and his desire to go to the front. A family title. Is that really what you're doing this for? The tension between them is palpable as they look for answers in each other's eyes. Cyan, realizing the depth of the question, answers with frankness. I am not interested in these titles at all. His answer emphasizes that his motivation lies somewhere deeper than gaining honor or power. So let's get started. Draw your sword, Alice shouts, confirming the start of the test. This moment becomes crucial for Cyan, where he has to demonstrate his abilities and determination to go to the front. Standing across from Alice, Cyan realizes that not even 12 hours have passed since the duel with Kranz. The fatigue of a day full of chaos and challenges is weighing heavily on him, but Alice, regardless of Cyan's condition, rushes into the attack, trying to test his limits. Her determination and seriousness impress Cyan, who sees that she is truly determined to fight with all her might. Cyan is both surprised and alarmed by his sister's maneuver, but he does not lose his presence of mind and deflects her blow. This moment comes as a shock to Elisa. She cannot believe that a 10-year-old boy was able to resist her attack. After a moment of thought, Cyan thinks to himself, Are you seriously going to use all your strength against your brother who is 7 years younger than you? This question reflects his surprise and bewilderment at Alice's aggressive behavior. The girl retreats from the boy, who takes a fighting stance holding his sword. Although she is impressed by his maneuvers, she still realizes that he has a very light blade that she is able to overcome with her blows. She looks at him and smiles, recognizing that his intuition is much better than she had anticipated. Dear Cyan, she says to him, expressing her admiration for his abilities. Cyan sees that she is preparing to strike again and thinks to himself that he is finished. He barely recognizes his sister Alice in this harsh and demanding warrior. Alice's massive lightning strikes strike Cyan, putting him to a difficult test. Alice skillfully maneuvers, attacking Cyan from different sides, demonstrating her skill and experience in combat. Cyan actively deflects her blows, despite the fact that his sword is much lighter than Alice's, Sparks fly in all directions from the collision of the blades. At a certain point, Alice notices that some magic is coming out of Cyan's sword, which makes their confrontation even more intense. She is amazed to see the magical power in this battle, which she did not expect from Cyan at all. Her eyes are wide open in amazement. She can't understand how it happened that this seemingly inexperienced guy had magic. Alice is amazed by Cyan's ability to resist her attacks, but she has no intention of stopping. Her determination and fighting spirit only grow in the face of a new threat. Cyan tenses up, realizing the seriousness of this fight, and mutters under his breath, "Oh shit." He is ready to continue the fight, realizing that he is in for a tough test. Suddenly, his right hand holding the weapon is enveloped in Alice's energy, adding a new level of intensity to the clash. He manages to dodge as the lightning strike turns out to be extremely powerful and serious. It seems that Alice now considers him a strong opponent and is ready to teach him a lesson he will remember for a long time. Cyan lands on 2 feet on the graceful wall of the castle roof, demonstrating his agility and ability to maneuver in extreme conditions. This is the moment when he uses not only his physical, but also his tactical skills to cope with the challenge that Alice has set for him. Cyan reflects on the danger of the moment in the duel with Alice, realizing that it could have ended very badly. If I hadn't changed the direction of the sword halfway through, I could have killed her. This moment reveals the deep responsibility Cyan feels for using her skills and strength. The mist swordsmanship skills that Cyan possesses are mostly aimed at killing an opponent in a split second, using techniques such as dense mist. This indicates the extreme lethality of his fighting style and the need to control his power. It's hard to fight without the intention to kill, because I don't have enough strength. How long has it been? When is this test finally going to end? Cyan thinks. These words emphasize his inner conflict between the desire to use his abilities to defend himself without causing unnecessary harm, and the realization of his limited physical and moral strength. Cyan clutches his sword with a trembling hand, realizing that he has saturated his sword with mana to compensate for his lack of strength, but his resources are already on the verge of depletion. He realizes that he cannot do without additional strength. Meanwhile, Alice bows her head down and begins to recite a spell. "Earth mind, come to me and accept the role of my sword." This shows her deep knowledge of magic and her ability to call upon the elements for help. This moment makes Cyan very tense, because he realizes that rank 6 magic is a serious challenge that cannot be joked about. Alice activates her superpower, the water sword, taking a razor-sharp stance with the sword burning with mana. This turns her into an even more threatening opponent. Seeing his sister's aggressive maneuver, Cyan begins to doubt the intentions of this test. This doesn't look like a test at all. Does she just want to kill me? He thinks, realizing the seriousness of the moment. Alice, enraged by her younger brother's unexpected strength, hoped to defeat him quickly, but her plans failed. This only fuels her anger and despair, and she decides to win at all costs, not ready to accept defeat. Cyan notices Alice's furious look and realizes that he is in a hopeless situation. He is standing on one of the pillars of the castle wall, and a fall from here could be fatal. Even if he tries to block her punch, he risks falling. He is left with only one course of action that can bring him victory. Cyan pushes off the wall with determination and rushes into battle, ready to face Alice in the last and decisive duel. Cyan doesn't hesitate to rush towards his sister's fatal blow, realizing that it could be fatal for him. He has no other choice at this critical moment, when the aura of Alice's sword is so strong that it illuminates everything around him with its power. Running with his sword to the attack, Cyan prays that everything will work out, hoping for a miracle or for intervention from above to save him from the imminent threat. At this crucial moment, when Alice swings in to deliver a blow that could prove fatal to Cyan, he relies on the protection of Elkin, the elite bodyguard who is supposed to be guarding him. And just as Alice is directing the powerful force of her water sword at Cyan, Elkin, an elite knight, suddenly appears between them, shouting, "Enough!" His appearance becomes decisive, interrupting the battle and possibly saving Cyan's life. Elkin becomes the central figure in this drama, using his sword to parry Alice's blow while pulling Cyan aside to keep him out of danger. Alice's punch illuminates everything around her, making the night city and castle shine with the energy of the battle, demonstrating the extent of her magical power. After stopping the fight, Elkin looks sternly at Alice, ready to reprimand her for her excessive aggression against her younger brother. "You're trying too hard against such a young opponent," he says, criticizing Alice for trying to defeat Cyan with too much violence, while holding Cyan to emphasize his vulnerability and need for protection. Cyan breathes a sigh of relief, having already lost hope that Elkin would show up. But he did, and he felt much better. He can feel the tension ease from his shoulders, realizing that he is now safe. Alice, shocked by her actions, seems to wake up from her anger and see what she has done. She realizes her mistake, feeling deeply remorseful for her behavior. She falls to her knees in front of Xiang, apologizing. I'm sorry, Cyan. I think I overreacted a little bit." Her words radiate sincere remorse and a desire to make things right. "I just don't want you to go to the front. I don't want you to go so badly that I—" She continues, revealing her true feelings and fear of losing her brother. Cyan hugs her sister and listens to her apology and thinks to herself, this is very much like her. She always tries too hard. He realizes that all of Alice's actions are not motivated by anger, but by deep care and love for him. Cyan is proud to talk about her sister. "My sister was an elite among the elite. In all subjects, she received the highest S grades at the Royal Academy, where the most talented children gathered, whether it was swordsmanship, magic, or anything else. She was also so beautiful that people called her the Divine Child. From her earliest childhood, she trained in swordplay. Everyone was saying that she could become the guardian of the continent along with Unwavering Vert," Cyan continues, pointing to the high expectations that were placed on Alice. However, sometime after she joined the Knights of Light, she was killed. This message is stunning, revealing Alice's tragic fate and great loss not only to her family but to the entire continent. Cyan hugs his sister tightly, promising her that this time he will protect her. Alice hears his words but cannot fully understand the depth of his intentions. Turning to the knight, Alice asks, "Oh, right, aren't you the Duke's bodyguard? He seems to have just left for the war." Her words indicate an attempt to find out the reason for Elkin's presence. Elkin replies, "I am following the Duke's orders to protect the young master, although I don't know if I should have kept it a secret." His words reveal the task that has been entrusted to him. Cyan thinks with satisfaction, "I felt his presence from the moment I left the Duke's office. If I had continued to pretend not to notice him, would he have never shown himself?" Cyan's reflections indicate that he intuitively felt the protection Elkin provided and ponders what the consequences might have been if he had continued to ignore his presence. One question haunts Xiang. Why did his father secretly order Elkin to spy on him? This reveals the depth of his father's concern for Xian's safety, but also leaves room for speculation about the real reasons for this decision. Tired from the day's events, Cyan cannot resist the sleep that comes when he finds himself in his sister's arms. He falls asleep, starting to snore, finding comfort and safety in Alice's arms. Elisa looks at her sleeping brother with a warm smile, feeling joyful at the moment of togetherness and connection they shared after all the trials. She says he is still only a small child. The next day, Alice returns to the academy, indicating a short visit home to see her father. Cyan, on the other hand, tries to regain his strength by doing push-ups, but with great effort, he could only do 9 repetitions. Cyan, making a final effort, pulls out her 10th push-up and thinks about her fitness. "I felt like my body was really weak, so I've been focusing on strength training for the past 2 weeks. This shows his determination to improve his fitness despite the difficulties. Falling to the floor and barely breathing, he realizes his limitations. But 10 is my limit, and all this time I was just banging my head against the wall." Expressing his frustration, he does not give up. He recalls a fragment from his previous life, his perfect form and self-confidence, which motivates him to continue training. At this moment, the maid comes in and makes the boy happy because he has received a parcel from his sister Alice, covering his nose in disgust and asking, "What is this? It smells disgusting." The bottle she holds in disgust was the blood of the hound he had asked her for earlier. It's a rare item to find in the Lamai Valley, but it seems the rumors that it can be obtained on the black market are true. This opens up new opportunities for Xiang to improve his abilities and prepare for future challenges. Cyan opens the bottle and pours the blood of a demon beast into the plate, known for its poisonousness due to its acrid odor and burning sensation when consumed. This action creates tension and anticipation. In fact, this blood permanently increases the mana and power of the person who drinks it. Although many consider this to be just a false rumor, there is a certain mystery and mysticism surrounding this remedy. Thanks to his past experiences, Cyan can say with certainty that this is true. Emily, concerned, asks him, "Young master, are you seriously going to drink this?" She expresses her concern and worries about his health. Responding to her concerns, Cyan reassures her, "Don't worry, Emily. I'm the only one who has been able to adapt to your food. I still remember the first time," alluding to his ability to withstand extreme conditions and use unusual methods to strengthen his strength. Cyan's memory recalls the first dish Emily cooked, which almost made him pale. "Was it mushroom soup, after I put the spoon in my mouth?" compared to that soup. This comparison brings to mind Cyan's great dedication to achieving his goals, even if it requires enduring unpleasant sensations. He puts down the plate with the potion he has drunk, taking the first step toward using his new abilities. Feeling a dramatic improvement in her strength, Cyan can't contain her emotions and shouts out, "This shit is nothing compared to that soup, it's delicious." His eyes burn with energy, demonstrating the powerful effect of the potion on his body. Emily, amazed and a little shocked, stands there looking at him like he's crazy, not believing her eyes. Emily is impressed by his decisive actions. Cyan warns her that he will need to go for a walk in the fresh air now, although he really wants to check if the potion has worked. He rushes forward, regardless of the obstacles, to a place that is stored in his memory. This place has a special meaning for Cyan, and he is determined to see the results of his experiment. Upon reaching his destination, Cyan stops and thinks, "It's been a long time since I came here. I have been waiting for this day for the past 2 weeks." These words reflect his long wait and hope for positive change. Cyan takes advantage of the moment when his bodyguard Elkin is away for his weekly report, to enjoy a moment of solitude. He thinks about how the constant surveillance of him can be stressful. "He follows me all the time, it's stressful. I often come here when I want to be alone." He recalls the story of Ashel, who once received a divine revelation from the goddess of light Lumendel, who said that somewhere in these mountains there was an ancient temple. I didn't really believe in it, but there was indeed a place with a strong concentration of mana flow. It seems to be somewhere here, of course. The divine revelation is still to come. Cyan, placing his hand on the ground, tries to activate the entrance, determined to find that temple. Cyan activates his magic, and his hand is enveloped in a magical aura. He gloats, realizing that only he knows about this place at this moment, and this gives him an advantage and a unique opportunity for discovery. His punch on the ground opens a secret entrance. The ground begins to crack, and the silhouette of a secret passage appears from beneath it, inviting Cyan to explore the unknown. He looks at the entrance and says, "Ashel, you cannot even imagine what I am doing now." These words reflect his inner determination and desire to go where his ancestors or rivals have not gone. Cyan discovers a secret dungeon with endless possibilities. He immediately goes deeper, full of excitement and readiness for new discoveries and challenges that await him in this unknown world. As he descends deeper, Cyan senses that this place is different from any he has ever entered. As he describes the cave and dungeons he makes his way through, he notices that every turn and every cave gallery radiates centuries of accumulated energy and history. He continues his reflections on this place, which was once an ancient temple dedicated to the goddess of light Lumendel. This history of the land has been erased from people's memory through wars and oblivion, but it remains engraved in the stones of these walls. The reason this place was forgotten is due to a war with a demon god that took place 300 years ago. Going down deeper and deeper, Cyan sees a temple in front of him, from which a soft, inviting light emanates, as if it shows the way and promises answers to the secrets kept within these ancient walls. As Cyan approaches the temple, he thinks, "Who would have thought that this place is right in the mountains behind the castle?" He notices an unusual glow emanating from the temple, drawing his attention. This radiance illuminated the entire space around. A huge and powerful sword hanging right in the center of the temple glowed with bright energy, mesmerizing with its sight. Cyan approached it with each step, immersing himself in this magical moment. In the heart of this temple, a huge sword shone and illuminated its visitors, radiating a mysterious power. It was not just a weapon. The sword seemed to possess its own will and wisdom, ready to share its secrets with someone who could understand and appreciate them. The story of this sword was born back in 1999 on August 12th, when humanity managed to repel the attack of the army of Demon King Vilas. Although the Demon King's army was much stronger than humans, the ancient relics known as the weapons of the gods played a decisive role. It was thanks to these relics that people managed to survive and win. Among these powerful artifacts was the Durand Dark, a sacred sword consecrated by the goddess of light Lumindel. This sword became the key to the victory of humans over demons. However, in the future, Cyan will be killed by this very sword, which will end up in the hands of Worth. This shot reveals to Cyan the bitter truth about his fate, connecting past, present, and future in one story of the sword. Cyan approaches the Durand Dark sword, pondering the sword's possible connection to his time regression. He contemplates this glowing sword, which levitates beautifully in the air, radiating a mysterious aura. Feeling an inner calling, he approaches and lightly touches it with his palm. But as expected, nothing happens. The sword requires from its owner the ability and the right to control it, selectively choosing to whom to reveal its power. Frustrated by this, Xiang desperately kicks the sword to express his frustration. This gesture not only demonstrates his frustration, but also emphasizes his rejection of defeat and his willingness to find another way to wield the sword. Disappointed and turning away from the sword, Cyan walks away saying, "You've just ruined my mood. I'll take care of my business and get out of here." His words reflect his frustration and dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs, but at the same time he is determined to continue. As he approaches the light source, he notices a shadow that seems to be torn from another world. Stepping away from the sword, Xian sees a dark, shadowy object that catches his attention and makes him think. At first he thought it was just a shadow of a sword, but as he got closer, he realized the deeper reason for his coming here. But it's not a shadow. It's something impossible, he reflects, realizing that he is facing something unknown and secret. It is true. Where there is light, there must be darkness. When he places his hands on this mysterious circle, he feels the demonic black energy filling the object, opening a passage to another temple. Upon entering, Xian saw a black dagger levitating in the air, emitting a mysterious light. He is excited about this meeting, as he feels an indescribable pleasure from renewing his connection with weapons. Taking it in his hands, Xian grips the dagger tightly. It was his sword, the one he had missed so much. A sense of familiarity and power fills him, confirming the importance of this moment. In front of him is the sword Chiron, a demonic weapon with enormous potential and power. It was a sword that stood in contrast to the one he had seen before, giving him new opportunities and choices. Feeling the power of Chiron's sword in his hands, Cyan greets him. "Good morning, Chiron." His words are full of respect and readiness to interact with this powerful weapon. As Cyan waves his sword, he realizes that Chiron has not yet awakened. A sword endowed with life by a demonic essence requires a special awakening. He realizes that he is not just a tool of destruction, but an ally who requires understanding and interaction. Looking at the sword, Xian feels a strong attachment and love for it. He laughs and enjoys this familiar sensation, wanting to cut something today, symbolizing his desire to experience the sword in action. But suddenly an unknown shadow appears in front of him, mocking him. "Hey, boy, you have no fear at all." This shadow presents Xiang with a new challenge and mystery, forcing him to question his abilities and the limits of his own courage. The demonic creature appearing before Cyan challenges him. "Do you know what my awakening means?" hinting at the consequences of his rebirth. Despite the threat, Xiang, holding his favorite sword, confidently answers, "I know. It means that this sword is now mine." But the demonic entity rises above him, enveloping everything around him in its dark fog, and declares, "You have awakened the sleeping demon sword. Now it's too late, unfortunately, boy." These words carry a warning of impending danger. The demonic creature looks at Xian with a smile, showing his cunning face, and says, "Now your body is mine." It reveals its intentions to take control of Xian's body, using him as its new master. The demonic mist, the spirit that dwelt in the sword, rushes towards the boy, wanting to possess his body. This moment is a decisive test for Cyan, in which he must face an otherworldly force and test his will and courage. With incredible speed and determination, Cyan stops the demonic spirit raging inside the sword, grabbing its dark entity firmly by the neck. His actions show a deep understanding and knowledge of the vulnerabilities of this otherworldly force, as if he had dealt with such creatures many times before. Holding the demonic creature, which at this point had taken on the form of a demoness, by the neck, Cyan speaks to it. "You were not so rash before." These words completely throw the demoness off balance, and she responds in shock. "Who are you?" The demoness, bewildered by the strength and courage shown by this young boy, cannot understand how he ended up in this dungeon and is able to control her. However, Cyan's eyes glow with an unusual energy acquired from the sword. He confidently tells her, "I told you it was my sword." The demoness, unable to accept this reality, points her claws, which have been transformed into deadly weapons, towards Cyan. Her intentions are clear. She wants to put an end to this unusual encounter using all her power. Her resistance is so great that she swings with all her might, hoping to kill Cyan by sending him to hell itself. This moment becomes the culmination of the confrontation between Cyan and the demonic entity, where each is ready to use all their strength and abilities to win. In a skillful maneuver, the demoness frees herself from Cyan's grip, pushing his arm away from her neck and retreating to a safe distance. Her movements are full of lightness and grace, indicating great skill and strength. After regaining her breath, the demoness stands in front of Cyan and asks him who he is. Her appearance is mesmerizing. A beautiful girl with a proud posture, black hair, and a piercing gaze that reveals her to be not only a creature of darkness, but also a being with a history and power of her own. Cyan, standing on the pedestal where he found the sword, surrounded by demonic energy that pulsates around him, demonstrates his right to own this powerful weapon. He radiates power and confidence that leaves no doubt that he is the true owner of the sword. Demoness, watching him, asks questions about his true origin and identity. "So who are you really, descendant?" This question points to a deeper intrigue and Cyan's possible connection to the ancient legends and prophecies surrounding the demon sword. Cyan, preserving the intrigue and mystique of the moment, is in no hurry to reveal all his cards. The demoness, sensing a powerful aura in him and surprised by its power, continues to ask questions, to which Cyan confesses, "Yes, I am a descendant of an era." With a sly smile on his face, he looks at her and says, "Your master has returned, bow down." The demoness is surprised and irritated by these words, because she is not used to this kind of treatment. Demoness perceives Cyan as a child, unable to fully appreciate the depth of his essence and potential. She considers him unworthy of such power and mission. Unable to accept such disrespect, she attacks Cyan, realizing that she cannot accept this state of affairs. Her blows fall like a downpour on the boy, demonstrating her dissatisfaction and attempting to test his strength. Cyan realizes that his words have not impressed the demoness. He clearly realizes the main purpose of the demon sword is to take over the body of its owner. In this situation, he realizes that he has no choice. The demoness demonstrates her skills by fighting for the right to control the sword. Cyan jumps to the side, avoiding its attacks, and directs the demonic power of the sword against the very creature living inside the weapon, realizing that it will have to learn a lesson. Smiling, Cyan activates control of the demon sword, using its potential against the demoness herself. As a result, the demoness suddenly falls to the ground and finds herself unable to get up, realizing her weakness in the face of the true power of Cyan and the sword. Cyan challenges the demoness. "I said it only once. Why don't you accept me as your master, while I am still good?" His words radiate confidence and power, giving the demoness a choice to accept his authority. The demoness, chained to the ground, tries to get up, but to no avail. With anger and incomprehension, she challenges him. "How can you use such power, you little rascal?" Her weakness in the face of his power makes her powerless and angry. Cyan repeats the spell, control of the demon sword, and with each repetition the demoness loses her strength. Her face touches the ground in powerlessness. He continues his call, each time with greater force. Control of the demon sword, control of the demon sword, control of the demon sword, and the demoness hits her head on the ground with such force Xian, wanting to test the sincerity of the demoness's intentions to recognize him as her master, repeats the command, "Control demon sword." The answer comes unexpectedly. With regret in her voice, the demoness addresses him, "Master, please stop, I obey you." Realizing that his task in the dungeon is complete and he has spent more time here than he had planned, Xian decides that it is time to return. He prepares to leave this place, sword in hand, to return to the light of day. As they leave the dungeon, the demoness, now in the form of a sword girl, appears, expresses her pleasure at the opportunity to feel the freshness of the air again. "Oh, how long it's been since I've breathed fresh air." The demoness, who has been in isolation for a long time, cannot hide her delight and enthusiasm for the opportunity to be on the battlefield again and to taste the adventure. She seems to radiate love and gratitude to Xiang, promising to accompany him every step of the way, which is the beginning of their journey together. Addressing her new master, the demoness asks his name, showing interest in the young man who managed to tame her. Her appearance, a black shadow with pink hair on Cyan's shoulder, adds to her mystery and charm. The name Cyan Vert sounds unfamiliar to the demoness, causing her to be surprised and curious. She asks with some distrust whether the Ira really chose such a child for herself, trying to understand what made the powerful force choose Cyan. Cyan's answer that he had a different purpose in his past life reveals to the demoness a new level of complexity and depth to Cyan's personality, hinting at his unique destiny and role in the great history of the world. The demoness's question about Cyan's past life leaves her confused and disbelieving. She cannot imagine what is meant by this expression. Cyan calmly explains that he had already died once, which only adds to her bewilderment and intrigue. Demoness is disturbed by his words and looks at Xian with a new level of respect and curiosity. This confession about a past life opens up the mysterious secret surrounding this guy. Joking about the state of rest in which the majestic sword of the legendary warrior is, the demoness tries to relax the situation. Cyan, approaching the sword, says that its true owner will have to wait about 20 more years before the sword wakes up to life again. With great intent, Xian prepares for a serious action by swinging his sword. This gesture demonstrates his willingness to use the sword not only as a symbol of strength, but also as a tool for solving future problems. The decisive moment is when Xian cuts off the top of the legendary sword, symbolizing a break with the past and a readiness to face new challenges. This act shocks the demoness, who perceives it as a sign of great changes that will soon take place in their lives. Cyan easily cuts off the top of the legendary Duran dark sword, catching it in midair. This decisive act alarms the demoness, who perceives Duran Dark as the ancestor of her demonic sword, the Sword of Light. She turns to Cyan, worried to ask him about his intentions, which reflects her concern and at the same time emphasizes her dependence on the will of her new master. Holding the severed sword head in his hand, Xian smiles, indicating his confidence and unpredictability. His words, "Who knows, maybe the battle with fate will be much more interesting," open up the vastness of the possibilities and challenges that lie ahead for both of them. This not only demonstrates his readiness for the challenges ahead, but also hints that he has a plan for his own path and the role he will play in the future of the world. After weeks of anticipation, the day finally arrives when Cyan sets out on his new adventure. He rides in an old wagon that takes him across the country to a place where new challenges and trials await. The old wagon, which squeaks its wheels loudly, seems to foreshadow the difficult and challenging paths ahead for Cyan. The wagon comes to a stop, braking sharply on the sandy ground surrounded by rocky terrain. This stop symbolizes the end of one stage in Xian's life and the beginning of another. Xian, dressed in his traveling clothes, steps out of the wagon, not believing that this day has finally arrived. He reflects on the transience of time and all the changes that have happened to him in this short period. Arriving at the front line, Cyan meets with the Duke, but is surprised to find his own father standing next to him. They both look tense, about to ask Cyan one last question. "Are you sure you want to go to the front? If you change your mind, I won't stop you," his father asks, putting all his care and fatherly love into these words, giving Cyan one last chance to choose. The word of Cyan's father becomes a decisive impetus for action. He commands his bodyguard to open it, referring to a mysterious scroll of great significance. This moment emphasizes the seriousness of the situation and the readiness for the next step. The Duke's bodyguard, a well-trained knight, pulls a light, a rolled-up sheet from its sheath, which he holds in his hands with care and respect. The element of mystery surrounding this world hints at its importance and magical properties. Cyan intuitively senses that he is looking at a magical world that has a great purpose. His suspicions are confirmed when he realizes that the world will be used to summon a powerful being. The knight unfolds the world to reveal a demonic pentagram. Activation of this symbol by the knight is the key moment that triggers the summoning process. A monster bursts out of the pentagram, an embodiment of demonic energy and darkness that instantly fills the environment. This creature appears as the embodiment of a powerful and dangerous force. The monster, summoned from the scroll, places its mighty paw on the sandy soil, demonstrating its reality and readiness for action. Its appearance becomes a test for Cyan and everyone present, emphasizing that they face new challenges and unknown threats. The creature, surrounded by fire, is on fire, radiating heat from head to tail. Cyan immediately recognizes it as a hellhound, a low-ranking demonic beast from the Lemay Valley. He is not afraid but confident, because he knows that for him, such a creature is nothing more than a training target. Cyan reflects that this challenge was probably prepared for him as a test, but he considers it a fairly easy task. He believes that he was underestimated by preparing such a weak opponent. Behind Cyan are the knights and his father, who were to witness his confrontation with the demonic beast. This makes the test more official and emphasizes its significance. When he turns around, Cyan finds himself surrounded by knights and his father, ready to intervene if he is in too much danger. This knowledge gives him additional confidence, but also adds pressure, as he wants to prove his independence and strength. Cyan's father, observing the situation, emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for every action. He urges Xiang to show his determination and pass this test, which will not only test his fighting skills, but also his moral fortitude. The father's bodyguard, knowing the secret about Cyan, watches the situation with confidence. He realizes that for the boy, this exam is nothing more than a regular training session. This causes the guard not so much concern as curiosity to see how Cyan will prove himself next time. The guard doesn't feel the need to keep his sword ready because he is confident in Cyan's abilities. This calmness, based on previous observations of the boy, demonstrates a deep understanding of his true strength. Suddenly the guard is approached by Cyan, who wants to compete with him. This unexpected offer makes the guard think twice, because it goes beyond the usual training matches. Cyan, sensing the approach of the deadline set by his father, expresses his desire not just to train but to test himself in real combat. His words reflect his thirst for challenge and willingness to face real danger. Cyan asks the guard to help him find a worthy opponent. His words indicate a deep desire to experience the sensation of real combat, emphasizing his dedication to the warrior's path and his desire for growth. When the knight hears about Cyan's whim, he is surprised and doubts the appropriateness of this choice. He believes that someone of Cyan's age, such as the young master Dian Cross, would be better suited for the duel. This emphasizes the knight's cautious approach to trials that could be dangerous for a young warrior. However, Cyan, without losing his resolve, explains that he cannot compete with his peers because they avoid meeting him. This indicates Cyan's special status among his peers and his alienation from them. The realization that Cyan is unable to compete with his peers prompts the knight to accept the challenge of a duel. This decision reflects the knight's willingness to support Cyan in his quest for self-improvement, even if it means engaging in an unequal battle. When the knight agrees to the duel, he sets his own conditions, emphasizing defense and not using his full potential. This emphasizes his desire to ensure Cyan's safety during the duel, and also gives the boy the opportunity to attack without restriction. Cyan gratefully accepts these conditions, expressing his gratitude to the knight for his willingness to help. However, he has one more request, which opens up the perspective for further development of the situation and demonstrates his unquenchable desire for growth and challenge. He asks the knight not to tell anyone about what he will see. Elkin was alarmed by this order from the young lord and thinks that he is bluffing, as one would expect from a child. Cyan, showing extraordinary speed and strength, poses a challenge to Yelkin that he did not expect. This emphasizes the determination and strength of the boy, who is ready to demonstrate his abilities even in front of an experienced knight. Yelkin, although surprised by the unexpected power and speed of Cyan's attacks, still deflects his blows. This indicates the knight's high level of skill and his ability to adapt to unforeseen situations. Cyan does not lose his determination despite Yelkin's resistance. He continues to attack, showing his will to win and his desire to test himself against a strong opponent. This duel between Xiang and Yelkin reveals not only physical but also emotional challenges for both. Yelkin, impressed by the young warrior's abilities, is forced to reconsider his attitude towards Xiang as a student. Cyan, using his incredible speed and skill, is able to perform unexpected maneuvers, leaving even the experienced knight Yelkin at a loss. This demonstrates his growing martial skill and unpredictability in battle. Xian's ability to suddenly appear behind his opponent and prepare for an attack is evidence of his high level of control over his body and abilities. This emphasizes his potential as a future great warrior. Yelkin, despite his experience and skill, has difficulty anticipating and blocking Xiang's attacks. However, his ability to react quickly to unexpected attacks emphasizes his high level of military competence. The magnitude of Xiang's punch, which is capable of making the environment tremble, indicates his incredible strength. This level of strength is not only impressive, but also raises concerns about his true capabilities. Xiang's continuous series of powerful attacks not only demonstrates his aggressive fighting style, but also his strategic approach to combat, where he leaves his opponent no chance to respond. Xian stops, his eyes filled with determination and gratitude at the same time. The sword, which instantly returns to his hand after the strike, emits a cold light. Yelkin, faced with the boy's unexpected skill, Yelkin's sword trembles slightly from the force of Xian's blow. The knight looks at the young warrior with great respect, recognizing his incredible strength and potential. Xian, resting after a tense duel, speaks with a slight smile. "Phew, just as I thought, I can't beat you that easily." With words of gratitude, "Thank you for your help." Cyan turns to Yelkin, emphasizing the importance of this test for him. Yelkin, for his part, responds with a polite smile, showing his willingness to always support the young warrior in his quest for strength and skill. Yelkin, having recovered from his first shock, looks at Xian with great respect. Impressed by his skill and strength, the knight exclaims, "Well done, young master. I can't believe that weak young master Xian." Yelkin observes how Cyan, who recently seemed like just a little boy, now radiates strength and confidence. This change impresses the guard, and he realizes that Cyan has grown not only spiritually but also physically. Yelkin looks at Xiang and speaks with deep conviction. "If my hunch is correct, the young master will be able to pass any test set before him now." Yelkin's faith in Xiang's abilities only grows stronger. Our hero Xian stands in front of the Hellhound, his eyes full of determination and readiness for battle. The anticipation of a tense confrontation fills the air. Xian is ready to prove that he is capable of overcoming any challenge that comes his way. The Hellhound attacks sharply, moving with incredible speed and aggression, releasing flames from its mouth that illuminate the environment and emphasize its demonic nature. Cyan, anticipating the imminent attack, prepares to take the blow. He stands firmly on his feet, focusing and concentrating his energy to respond. The ferocity of the Hellhound is growing with each passing moment. It flies at Xian with its mouth open as if thirsting for his blood, and its eyes burn with hatred and lust for battle. The moment the hound's attack almost reaches its target, Xian, with incredible agility and precision, deflects the blow, directing the force of the blow back at the hound itself. His sword shines, reflecting the flames of the Hellhound. The Hellhound is knocked to the side by Xian's strike, but the flames that envelop it do not fade away, testifying to its endless endurance and strength. It prepares for another attack, and its eyes glow with a treacherous flame, ready to rush into battle again. Cyan concentrates all his strength and demonic energy, preparing to end the fight with one masterful blow. He identifies the monster's weakness, aiming directly at its vulnerable point. His eyes stare stubbornly at the Hound of Hell, feeling its every move, preparing for the decisive moment. He feels the tension of the moment, ready to release all the accumulated energy. Cyan's sudden and accurate kick sends the Hellhound rushing toward him, and the hound doesn't even have time to react to his speed and accuracy. Xian's sword, like lightning, flashes through the air and precisely cuts off the monster's head, demonstrating not only his skill, but also his indescribable strength. At this point, Xiang, using all his agility and lightness, leaps above the hound, striking downward from above like an arrow from a bow. His demonic sword shines, piercing the air and ending the fight with an instant victory over the hellhound. The knights standing nearby could not hide their surprise and admiration at how easily and skillfully the young warrior Xian dealt with the hellhound, which was considered a serious threat. Xian's father, standing among the knights, glows with pride as he watches his son's success. He realizes that Xian is not just a son, but a real talent worthy of great achievements. Seeing the pool of blood from the hellhound, Xian can't help but think about how much valuable blood was wasted. He thinks that he could have filled an entire bottle with it if he had been prepared in advance. Realizing how strange and even a little crazy his actions might look, collecting the monster's blood in the presence of the knights and his father, Cyan ironically remarks to himself that maybe next time he should really bring a mug. This thought makes him smile, feeling light after the intense battle. The father, with undisguised delight and pride, applauds his son, shouting praise for his skill and courage. He does not skimp on the compliments, recognizing that Xian is truly ready to defend his country at the front. Having received such high recognition from his father, Xian feels a growing confidence in himself and his purpose. He humbly thanks his father for his trust and the opportunity to prove his strength and dedication. At this moment, his demoness clone addresses him, saying with a slight reproach in her voice, "Master, do you think I'm a kitchen knife?" Her words sound half joking, half serious. Cyan, slightly worried but smiling, answers her, "Of course not. You are my demon sword, my strength and support, but why do you ask?" His voice sounds confident, and he fully understands the importance of their union. Hearing his answer, the demoness lets go of the joke. "Well, at least it's not a kitchen knife. I promise you I won't let you down at the front." Her words are filled with determination and a promise to serve her owner faithfully in all his battles. The demoness eagerly demands, "Then use me, damn it, I need blood to gain strength." She turns her gaze to the hound's corpse, her eyes burning with desire. "Please give me at least a sip." Cyan reassures her, "Don't worry." His voice full of confidence and promise. He picks up the dagger of hell and says with a promise, "Because soon I will use you very often, so just wait." But the demoness purrs in displeasure. "What do you mean soon? Then why did you wake me up?" Her words radiate a mixture of irritation and irony, but also a barely concealed anticipation of the battles to come. A large orc with a sharp axe lets out a loud scream that echoes among the soldiers, stopping their hearts in fear. His huge figure stands out on the battlefield like a beacon of danger. A huge bell is ringing, its loud sound spreading throughout the neighborhood, calling the soldiers to battle. This sound, like a battle cry, ignites the fire of courage in the hearts of the defenders. "Form a line of defense and deal with the orc. Let's not leave a single creature alive," the Lord orders his knights, his voice sounding decisive and categorical. The warriors, encouraged by their Lord's words, raise their swords, which are burning with the idea of immediate salvation and deterrence. Their faces reflect determination and readiness for battle. A pectogram of the army of light forms above the orc horde, emitting a blinding light that blinds its enemies. The magical light promises hope and support to the warriors of light in their fight against darkness. Above each group of orcs, a luminous pectogram materializes, radiating an unearthly light. These symbols radiate power and magic, emphasizing the intervention of higher powers. Threads of light are released from each pectogram, wrapping around huge orcs with axes, restraining their movements. The orcs are trying to break free, but the magical fetters are unbreakable. At this critical moment, the army, along with the king, rushed to attack to deal with the orcs, who were immobilized by the magical pectograms. Their attack was relentless and determined. Knights with cold swords skillfully cut off the heads of orcs who fall to the side, unable to resist. Each blow was precise and deadly, leaving only lifeless bodies behind. One of the great orcs, bound by the nooses of the pectogram, watches helplessly as a fearless warrior rushes toward him. The warrior raises his sword for the final blow, ready to make a decisive act in this battle between light and darkness. He focuses his strike on the creature and approaches steadily. Approaching the very center, he attacks the orc, and the large animal loses its head. Sitting on his horse, our hero indifferently watches the battle, without any sign of fear or concern. Next to him, his tutor, terrified, does not take her eyes off the bloody scene. An orc's head lands not far from them, causing the woman to become even more terrified. With tears of fear and despair, she turns to the young master, her voice trembling with emotion. "Young master, why did you want to come to such a place? Aren't you afraid?" The guy thinks about her words, recalling his past. Who would have thought that I would come back here? Memories. Everything is as usual, just like in hell. Clutching the leash in his hands, the father asks his son how he feels at this moment. The son, though slightly nervous, replies with growing confidence that he is ready for the challenges ahead. Wearing armor and riding a mighty horse, the father continues his life lesson, emphasizing the unpredictability of war and the importance of constant readiness. His words are full of wisdom and experience, telling us to never relax and always be on guard. "Good. I'll remember that, father," the son replies, recognizing the brutal reality of the front line where the situation can change at any moment, and every day brings new challenges. The father continues his lesson by sharing a battle strategy where each battle requires a different approach and tactics. He emphasizes the importance of each encounter with the enemy and the need to adapt to changing battlefield conditions. At the heart of every tactic are the knights, the brave warriors who stand to defend their lands against the monsters that try to cross the front lines. Their task is not only to fight the battle, but also to protect everyone behind them from the inevitable threats of war. In the heart of the front, where the noise of war mixes with the tension of anticipation, there is a tent designed to protect the young master. It is guarded by knights, unwavering, loyal defenders, ready to defend their ward at any moment. Peeking through the curtain, Cyan realizes that she belongs in the safe zone of the camp. This is the safest place, but do I really want to be here? He asks himself as he reflects on his place and role in this war. Surrounded by well-disciplined knights, Cyan realizes that in such circumstances he will not be able to use Chiram, his demonic sword, covertly, as its power can attract unwanted attention. Watching Emily sit with her face hidden under the blanket and trembling, he feels her fear and uncertainty. Her words about the Duke, who reminded her of the inevitability of death, only deepen his anxiety. She asks Cyan what the Duke said to them, feeling the burden of responsibility and risk that rests on the shoulders of every soldier at the front. The Duke's words about the possibility of dying at any moment only increase her fear and uncertainty about the future. In the face of the fear and uncertainty that envelops them both on this front, Cyan does not lose his composure. He looks at Emily with calm confidence, trying to dispel her fears with his words. His offer to return sounds like an invitation to a safer life, far from the cruelties of war. Emily responds with unexpected aggressiveness, expressing her importance in their tandem. She emphasizes that Cyan will find herself in a difficult situation without her help and support, especially in an environment where danger lurks at every turn. Emily defends her decision to stay, emphasizing that there are monsters all around them, and that running away would only leave Cyan without reliable protection. She reminds him of his role as a caretaker and protector, even in such a dangerous environment. Changing the subject and trying to lighten the tense atmosphere, Cyan mentions the cloak he asked Emily to prepare, pointing to their normal household needs and the bonds that keep them together even at a time like this. When Emily leaves the tent, she acts abruptly, but this is not a sign of disdain or rudeness, but rather a defensive reaction to the world around her, full of dangers. Her actions reflect her desire to protect Cyan in every way she can, even if it means being a little rougher. Cyan is left confused by Emily's abrupt response. He wonders if he should follow her or if he should give her time to cool down. The internal conflict indicates his respect for her, as well as his desire to maintain harmony in their relationship despite the tense moments. In his temporary accommodation, Cyan resorts to the trick of placing a doll in his bed to create the illusion of his presence. This creative approach reflects his unwillingness to disturb others with his nightly training and his desire to improve himself even in difficult circumstances. Cyan hopes that his ploy with the sleeping mannequin will be effective. This act demonstrates his ingenuity and willingness to use unusual methods to achieve his goals. When Emily notices Cyan ready to train despite the late hour, she expresses her surprise at his dedication. Her reaction makes him feel guilty for waking her up. This moment emphasizes his respect and care for Emily despite their recent misunderstandings. Cyan, having collected her thoughts, turns to her nanny with words that sound like a familiar farewell phrase. "Okay, I'm going to go, so you take care of everything as usual." His voice sounds confident, reflecting a maturity that belies his young age. He adds, half seriously, half jokingly, "And if anyone asks, I'm asleep," emphasizing his cunning and resourcefulness, which have so often helped him in the past. Night has fallen on the camp, and with it tensions are rising, a time when more soldiers are heading to the front lines, and the darkness is witnessing heroic and tragic acts. Cyan, knowing this, sets out to meet the unknown, ready to face the challenges that await him in the darkness of the night. Using the cover of night, Cyan realizes that now is the perfect time to move unnoticed. Under the cover of darkness, he moves quickly along the front line, avoiding surveillance. His steps are almost silent, but determined. Activating the third form, Mist Spectrum, Cyan envelops himself in a thick fog that makes him invisible to enemy eyes. He moves so fast that even his own thoughts can barely keep up with his determination. Cyan analyzes the situation and comes to the conclusion that he must meet a crowd of monsters at this time, and his premonition turns out to be correct. A large gathering of enemies opens up before him. This is the perfect moment for Kairam, Cyan thinks, his eyes burning with an insatiable desire for battle. He can feel his demon sword thirsting for blood, ready to face any challenge. With incredible speed, Cyan draws Kairam, his sword glowing, engulfed in flames, ready for battle. The sword senses the presence of the enemies, their blood, and Cyan is ready to direct this passionate power against them. The boy feels the Kairam, his demonic sword burning with insatiable thirst. "Master, I can't hold back any longer. Let me cut someone," the sword in his hands demands. A huge hellhound appears in front of Xiang, who also thirsts for blood, becoming the first target of his restless weapon. "All right, Kairam, as you wish," Cyan replies, and with heroic fervor he rushes into battle against the monsters that stand in his way. His movements are fast and precise. He cuts through enemies, moving across the battlefield like an unstoppable killer. The sword Kairam in his hands sows death and destruction. By activating the Misty Sword, Misty Storm, Cyan makes his way through the ranks of monsters, sending energy strikes that devastate the ranks of enemies, forcing the darkness to retreat before the light of his sword. Cyan has killed all the hounds of hell and wants to taste their nectar, so he pokes a hole with a stick, and this nectar flows directly into his cup. One by one, he drinks the blood of the hounds of hell and drains their power. He feels a thrill from this exercise. His strength improves, and his sword is simply delighted and feels great at last. Cyan, overcome with excitement and fighting spirit, turns to his demonic sword Kairam. "Great, let's keep going. How many of these bastards do we need to destroy to become stronger?" His voice vibrates with eagerness and desire for action. Answering his own question, Cyan notes with a smile that the night has just begun, and there are still many opportunities for battles ahead. He is overwhelmed with confidence and ready for the next challenge. Cyan looks around the environment, sensing the presence of other monsters waiting for their turn to meet the sharp blade of his sword. He knows that Kairam is thirsty for new victories and is ready to enjoy every kill, gathering strength and power with each enemy's fall. A convoy of wagons, surrounded by loyal knights, set off on a strenuous journey through the mountain roads. They lead to the front, where a decisive battle is to take place. Inside one of the carriages, a young girl dressed in an elegant outfit listens to her escort's warnings about the dangers that await at the front. She looks out of the window with concentration, thinking about the future. A blonde woman in battle armor addresses the girl with a proposal to go back, to which she receives a strong response. "You don't have to treat me like a child. I am a princess of this empire, and it is my duty to accompany my father on his travels." The princess, without hiding her irritation, once again reminds us of her status and responsibilities to the empire and her people, emphasizing her commitment to family and state interests. She warns her maid that she will be very unhappy if she continues to question her decision. The conversation is filled with emotional tension, emphasizing the strength of the princess's character and her willingness to stand up for her beliefs. The maid starts a conversation by dropping a phrase. "Oh, by the way, I heard that the family's youngest son returned from the front." The princess, surprised, clarifies, "He is about your age. Did Duke Worth really bring his youngest son with him?" The maid explains, "The Duke did not intend to take him with him. The boy decided to go himself. You are about the same age, so you should get along." The princess, irritated, cuts the maid off. "As if I care about such trivial things. Forget it, I want to sleep." The maid, upset, leaves and the princess lies down. Suddenly the princess calls out to the maid. "But what if she asks his name?" The maid answers, "His name is Cyan Vert." The princess thinks, repeating the name, "Cyan." Her face is distorted with anger. She twists her arms and shouts, "Cyan Vert, ga!"